Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. We're out here in the garden, and today we're going to talk about growing your own fruit. Now, a lot of times people, when you talk about growing your own fruit, they think about maybe growing something like strawberries, blackberries, things like that. But I like to encourage you to grow all kinds of things. Now, we do have a little banana pup here. It was taken off of this tree, which has another pup that's allowed to grow up. It's getting pretty big. It hadn't flowered yet. And bananas might not be your thing. As far as I'm not in an area to where these can survive the winter, so they will always be grown in the greenhouse. But hopefully I'll get fruit on these this year. They were started at the end of I think 2022. They've grown all last year and got to this point. I have taken pups off and gifted them, just like this one here will be gifted too. These plants were gifted to me. If you follow along, they couldn't take our sun during the summer, so I put them in here where they had shade cloth. They did have a hard time getting through the winter, but they did get through. And that's one of the main things. If you want bananas, they have to get through. Now, there's so many different options for growing fruit. Now, I'm trying my avocados, which aren't doing too good. This one was doing good, but looks like it's dying. And if these die, I'm giving up on avocados. I do propagate a lot of figs, and we'll look at those. And I have an orange tree here. I have air layer ball sitting on here to air layer me some more oranges. I'd like a few more, and hopefully all four of these will take. I did air layer some last year, but I gave them away, and so I'm going to have to get some more this year. Now, they've already bloomed. They bloom real early in the season, so if you're going to do oranges, if you're going to get freezing weather, they're definitely going to have to be covered up or have some supplemental heat. The same thing with the lemons. This is and that's a Satsuma orange for those of y'all. And the same thing with the lemon tree here. Now, you can see some of these lemons aren't setting, which that isn't uncommon, but it's loaded up with a bunch of lemons. We should get a good crop. It is still blooming on some of its limbs. It's putting out new buds, so it'll go for a while, and it'll set as much fruit as it wants, and then it'll lose whatever it doesn't want. And this will eventually go into the ground. And of course, I got my grapefruit that I grew from seed, and all these other citrus varieties, which are from tangerines, blood oranges, red grapefruits, and regular grapefruits. And we have a Persian lime down here. Now, I am air layering one off of this. I don't actually need another lime, but if for some reason I lose one, I'll have a spare to keep me going. I didn't air layer any more lemons because I have this lemon tree here that's going good, and I have this lemon tree here. It's got a little fruit on it. So these were both air layered last year, and they can be successfully kept. Now, I'm in 8B, and 8B, it does get too cold a lot of times in the winter, especially with these this odd weather control that we've had here in the past few years. So you either need to be able to bring them in when it's going to get close to freezing, or you need to be able to cover them and give them supplemental heat. I keep them in the greenhouse here in the winter, and I just use mini Christmas lights, and I use row cover protection fabric to drape over both sides, so it kept them warm enough to where they do survive well. Now, I had pineapple, and I got some new ones starting here. They don't look real pretty, but they always look like this when they're starting. Shouldn't be long. These things should be rooting, and I'll put them out where I lost my others. Because I lost my others because I didn't cover them. I had forgot about them, didn't cover them during the bad freeze. And by the time I realized it, uh, it wasn't that bad, but by the time I realized it, it already damaged them. These are my apples that were grown from seed. I'm guessing it's going on the 5th year. I don't really remember. I could probably calculate by going back to some older videos. This one has bloomed up high. I don't know if it set fruits because it did have aphids on it, and I have treated, but I don't know that the treatment has done any good because rain and such as that. So I'll come back and treat again, and hopefully I can do something with these aphids on there, and we can come over here. I have a bunch of blueberries. I've had these for a few years. Blueberries do like a real acidic soil. You can see these are doing well. We do have blueberries getting ripe there. This year is much better than before. The things are deciding to come on, and I have added one more row this year, and they are in kind of close. But that's the way I'm gonna have them. They do need to come down in here and do some weeding. It's really when you got a garden this size, it takes a lot of effort to keep the weeds down. And another thing that happens, now we have dewberries, what we call them. This is a little blackberry, and you can find them wild down here, and they like to get on the fence. That's not quite right, but it's good enough to eat. And as you can see, it is getting time to start picking these things. And we had cleaned out most of these. They're trying to creep over here and take over. And occasionally you'll get where a seed comes up, and you got to dig up the roots of those to keep them out. But that's another. These aren't thornless or the domesticated type, but they make really good jelly, and they grow good in our area. Next, we'll look at some of the other fruit trees. This one here is a pink lady apple. Now, I've had to hand pollinate this, but you can see I've got apples at different places coming out here, and I don't see a lot of bees early on, and so if I don't come out here and hand pollinate, it does seem to have a problem. Now, I had more of these. The heat had killed them. This one here is definitely needing pruned out. I'm going to air layer some off of it for some more to replace the ones I lost. But now a lot of your fruit trees, now when you buy the bigger apple trees in a pot, now some of the smaller bare roots, they'll take some years before they'll start producing. But when you buy larger trees, you can get fruit in just a few years. Now this here is a kefir pear. This has been here for several years. It doesn't always set very much fruit. This year was a little bit better as far as weather did right. There's fruit hiding up in there at different places, and it doesn't set a whole lot. It had never, and it does need pruned. Pear trees are notorious for their growth, and a lot of this will end up being taken off as far as I'll do some spring pruning, because the pear, when I tend to do I say summer pruning, when I tend to do it in the winter, it tends to put up a lot of these water sprouts, these limbs that shoot straight up, and you don't ever find fruit on them. And here in a little bit of time, I'll take those out, but I'll take limbs like these ones that come out and that are bearing fruit, and I'll go ahead and air layer off of them. And that way I'll be sure I've got good fruiting limbs. if you do a water sprout, chances it'll grow, but I don't know that you'll get any fruit off it. Now I've added some new ones. This is one that I've been wanting. I finally got it. I'm working on propagating some because it was pretty rough. I pruned a few limbs off, get it where it's more manageable. But this is a mayhaw tree. Mayhaws do have noticeable thorns on them. They do like a lot of water because they'll grow in boggy areas, and they're not really known, for everywhere in the country. I don't believe that they're kind of found near our area, and there are some different types. But like I say, they do like plenty of water, and they do well for those areas that sometimes tend to get waterlogged and then dry back out. Today I'll be planting some new trees I've got. I got some peaches. I had one peach that I have kind of neglected. I'm going to put these down there by it. Hopefully I won't neglect it quite so much. The varieties I have that I'm planting are one of them is, or two of them are Redskin, which is a cling-free peach, and then I have the uh, Alberta, which is another good peach, and I believe it's the Alberta is cling-free too. I think, yeah, it's a Freestone peach too. I had both of these varieties, but when I built my shop here, they were in the way, and I moved them. And the Redskin didn't like when it was moved because they were pretty good size, but like I say, I had to move them because we were putting a slab there. The Alberta did live for a few years. Uh, it never did real good when it moved, and then finally it uh, eventually died. And then I have a Bartlett pear here to add to my collection of pears that I have. Now this big tree here is a mulberry tree, and it is starting to put on mulberries. Maybe we can see some. Some areas where it's been warmer earlier, they're already putting out heavy. You can see off in there that they're green and they're forming, and it won't be long before these get ripe. Now we don't harvest them too often. We have harvested before and made jelly, and normally the way we do here is a tart because it's easy enough to take a 1x4 or something that's long and put it against a limb and shake the limb and catch them onto a tarp and then sort through and get everything that's good. Now over here I have uh, some these are mayhaws that I trimmed off. Hopefully some of them or one of them will go ahead and root in, so I'll have some more. And then I have some Celeste figs, and those were taken off of a fig tree I just recently purchased. Now I have one Celeste. I did originally propagate 4 Celeste, but 3 of them died in a really bad freeze when it got down to -7. And this Celeste had a lot of, uh, I'd say, sucker branches coming off here. I took them off. Now what I'll do when I go to plant this is I'm going to actually alternate it this way so that it's facing more upward, and get it to where it grows up more. But the one that I have that survived has never been really vigorous. It's just like it barely survived. It might do better this year because it got pretty cold last year, so that last season it didn't. I think it died back to the ground again, and it's had to come back. So hopefully it'll do good this time. These 2 figs here are some of my earliest figs that I had. They have froze back. This one here didn't do that much growing last year. It was kind of slow. It's been slow ever since it froze back to the ground. It was more like that one. But what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to come in here. I've got so many sprouts coming off the bottom. I'm going to cut these out. I will go ahead and pot them up, see if some of them will take and make other figs. But this Texas Everbearings, and this one definitely, I had done some trimming uh, off, so I got a little bit of this off, and I actually topped it so it'll start spreading out. But what I'm going to do is take all these suckers down off from the root. Now they will produce, but it just gets unmanageable and it doesn't make it produce that fast. But you can see we have fruit starting on there. It did have fruit a month or so back. Now I saw another one hiding, some more hiding over here on that one. It had some fruit, but it got down below freezing a little bit, and it dropped its fruit, so it's starting back to put some more. It will bear the whole season long. And I have two more over here, I believe to be brown turkey. These were gifted to me. Somebody else started the cuttings, and I've yet to get fruit off them. This year I should. I can see figs forming on here now early. Because it keeps freezing back to the ground, and then it wouldn't make any fruit. But this one, I'll do the same on these suckers that are coming from the bottom. I'll take them off. I'll leave a few branches to come up. This here is my Orient pear. It's actually doing good this year. It's last year it did really good. It had heavy production, and you can see we've got a good bit of fruit set on it this year. We did take and freeze dry a bunch of the pears from here, and we ate a whole bunch of them. They are really good when they are allowed to get ripe on the tree, but it's got good fruit set this year. These are older. I don't remember if it's 5, 6 years old. I've been taking better care of them this year. Now this other pear, and I'm not sure which variety it is, but I'd say I'm going to do some heavy pruning on it this summer, and hopefully it'll produce this next year, because it didn't even bloom to set any. Now it does have a couple of grafts here, and these are well, if I could read it. I don't know, looks like liver sugar pear or something. But anyway, it was grafted here. I did this last year. The graft is taking good, but if it doesn't produce, what we're going to end up doing is we'll probably take and use some of these grafts on another one. I don't know if the rootstock is what makes it decide to bloom, or if it's the above the graft. But anyway, we don't need a pear that just grows leaves. Now it has had a hard time. We have leaf cutters that's out here, and we try to watch them close. And they'll come in here, and overnight they'll just they can clip all the leaves off this tree overnight or in a couple of days. So we have to watch close whenever they're in season. Now this here is my methyl plum, and it has done really good this year. Most years it comes out and it has a problem. Now this here is like two formed together. A lot of times you get something like that, you take off. Now it is casting away some fruit. I got to come back here and spray it. This one here looks like something might have got into it. So what I'll end up doing is I'll put some more, spray some more clay on it. I've got a video on that. because bugs do like to come in here. But normally what happens on this one every year, and I guess I said this was a methyl leaf, but what happens is about the time it blooms, we get a cold spell and it messes it up. Now this other pear I'm thinking was a Bruce, I'm not sure. Now it has been sprayed, but it's getting bugs too. You can see where it's got in there. I need to come back and spray some more kaolin clay on it and see if I can keep some fruit on it. But it is getting older. One thing with fruit trees is you need to come in here and watch at the bottom when they put suckers out. Take these off. The sucker will overcome the rest of it, and then you'll end up with a problem with to where that's kind of an odd leaf. We're going to pull it off, but where it'll overtake the rest, take all the nutrients from it, and then the top will die, and you'll have something coming from below the grass. Now these trees here, this is a wonderful variety pomegranate. It doesn't look real terrific. This one here started leafing out, and then it died, but it is shooting back from the bottom. Now there's a difference between this. This is a propagated variety of pomegranate, so when it sends something from the rootstock, it's going to be the same. It's not going to be a different variety. And these didn't start coming up until this top ended up having a problem. Now over here we have our persimmon tree. I'm trying to think, Fuyu, I believe is the variety. But anyway, you can see it's setting persimmons. Last year was the first year it set persimmons. Persimmon trees really have beautiful leaves because the waxiness of them. And these leaves are actually bigger this year. Like I say, I've been taking better care of them. I'll come in here and fertilize. I have a load of compost ready to go. We'll fertilize and compost them. And we have to watch because we've got some kind of insect damage that comes in here. And we will spray them to help the tree. Now this apple here is a Granny Smith. Now we had another one, and this one is actually too far from the other trees to pollinate it. Granny Smith is a real good pollinator for them, but this tree is on its last leg, and looks like we got caterpillars crawling. I do catch that occasionally. Now this was what I was hand pollinating from, and you can see we have fruit set on here. But what we did was we hit this with the mower when it was young, and it's really it's just barely hanging on. It's this limb here is all rotted looking. In fact, it's dead up top. It does have this side shoot, and what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and air layer some of these off, so we'll have some more Granny Smith. And the thing about air layering is when you air layer, which is you're making it root up on a limb, when you air layer, you're going to have a tree that thinks it's the same age as the one it came off of. So it's not going to be like if you planted a seed or something and it take 4 or 5 years before it starts blooming. It'll start blooming the next year, and you'll have to decide if it's big enough that you want it to keep fruit. So if it's really young and you say, well, I want that fruit, I hate to pick it up, what's going to happen is your fruit is going to overload it, and it's going to stunt your tree. So it's always best not to get it going too much. But this one will have quite a few fruit for its bed condition, and it will eventually be taken out. But when we hit it with the mower, we broke one of its main roots off, and it's been struggling ever since. We've actually had to trim part of it that died. This was a little side shoot that come off. But anyway, we'll make use of it and probably end up moving it somewhere else where it's more use for pollination. And here's my honey crisp. This was, you can see the little apples. It's, here, this is one that I had to take and hand pollinate. But as far as it does have apples, this one is a few years old. This was actually a cutting. When I pruned the other one, I just stuck them in the ground, and this was one that actually rooted in, and so I moved it over here. Its parent tree actually has died. The heat killed it last year, which it was looking pretty rough with different situations. And this is one of my original honey crisps. This one will air layer some off this year. It was one, it ended up getting canker, and you can see I had actually pruned off the limb and tried to deal with it best I can, but you can see these leachings are real heavy on it, so I don't think it's got much life left with it, but I'll take and use this as stock to get me some more trees. And this is my peach tree. This is one's been here a while. I'm not sure exactly which variety this is. I was planning to air layer some limbs off this one this year. Normally, it doesn't end up with fruit. I need to get in here and spray it again. That's normally what happens to its fruit. The bugs come in. It really hasn't been taken good care of. We did go ahead and fertilize it, and we composted it like we do the rest. Now, it does have a good amount of peaches on here if I can keep the pests from getting them. And like I say, what's going to happen is I'll end up spraying some more clay on these, and that'll cut down on a lot of the pest issues. The ones that I showed you earlier, we went ahead and put these in the ground, so we've got our little peach orchard started. So it won't be long, and some of these actually have peaches on them. There's no need for me to pull them off because they do have a good root system, and they should get good care down here. We did. We had an old faucet here. This whole used to be a campground, so we had that shut off, but we put in a new drain back faucet yesterday, and so we've got a good water source to water these. And down here at the fig orchard now, we do have quite a few figs on the property, somewhere 140 or so, and most of them are young. They froze back last year, and so this last winter they didn't. So they're starting to do a whole lot better. We should get good fig production off of these. I can see a little fig in there. They're starting to form. We have and this one here is a brown turkey. So we have about 20 varieties. These two rows here are new ones. We have a load of compost. We're going to compost around these, fertilize them, compost them, and looks like they could use a little bit of water. Now, I had planted, I think about 33, and two of them didn't like it, and one of them I hated to lose, my Texas Blue Giant. I've not had good success with that. This one seemed to be big enough that it should took hold, but it didn't. But they are looking dry. You can see the leaves are real flexible, so I just turned the water on these we've been hoping for some rain. They've been predicting it, but you can't really count on that. But a lot of these already have nice sized figs. That's the Italian Everbearing. Now I did lose a few this last year. I don't know why. This is one here, and it was an Italian Everbearing. And what I've done is I've got some, maybe the same or some other varieties to put in here and take their place. This one up here was one of them that started out early. It's already got a fig starting to droop here, so it won't be long. We'll be eating it, and it is kind of early. These should start putting on more figs. They did get some cold weather, so they dropped a lot of their smaller figs. But figs are a real good fruit to add because they'll produce their first year if the conditions are right. Some of these are bigger. This one's about 6.5 foot. That's how much it grew back last year. And then we have our elderberries down here, which they're doing good, leafing out. We've got a row of them, and they should be producing pretty quick. But anyway, as you can see, there's a lot of options for growing fruit. I encourage people to grow fruit. Some of it are pecan trees, and I didn't show those, but we just put out a couple more. We had put out one last year, but for some reason it looks like it might not come back. But we put out 2 this year, and they're leafing out good. They should come along fine. But when you start thinking about how it might take way too long for them to produce, you can't worry about that. If you keep waiting and waiting, you'll never have fruit trees. And definitely it's some maintenance when you get to this size. I got to get the mower down in here and mow, and then we'll compost, fertilize and compost these again. But a lot of them on figs, when they die back, as you can see, it's coming back from the bottom. I kind of wait to see give it a chance and see how it's going to do, because most of them will come back. And when you're using a drip system, you need to check it fairly regular. As you can see right here, of course, it looks like we just blew the end out of one of the drip nozzles. It probably wasn't positioned right, but it's easy fix. But you need to check it and maintain it, make sure, because if you see a particular plant and you have drip nozzles, but one of them seems to be wilting where the rest aren't, that's an indicator that you need to make sure that nozzle is working correctly. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and maybe you learned something. Maybe it's encouraged you to maybe plant you some fruit trees. I might, I never know. Maybe my pecans, I might not get a pecan off them. You can't never tell how long you're going to live, but if you don't go and do it like you think you're going to live, then you'll never get it done. But if you want to see more videos like this, of course, hit that subscribe, hit the bell, select all, and give it a big thumbs up, share this video. Enjoy that gardening experience.